I'm a first generation college student. I grew up in Arkansas and I went to the University of Arkansas in Fayetteville for an undergraduate degree in chemistry. And after completing that degree, I worked in a laboratory that provided or measured samples for the Environmental Protection Agency. During that time, I realized that wasn't really what I wanted to do for my career, and I returned to graduate school. And I went to the University of Oklahoma to study chemical engineering with Ed O'Rear. And my project was focused more on drug delivery and applications of polymer synthesis for drug delivery over very short terms. And after completing my PhD, I wanted to explore this realm of drug delivery and prolonged presentation of growth factors and other stimulatory molecules in the arena of tissue engineering. So I was very fortunate to complete postdoctoral research with David Mooney at the University of Michigan and at Harvard University, where I really was exposed to so many wonderful applications of biomaterials for tissue engineering of bone and muscle and cartilage regeneration. So after completing a postdoc, I started an assistant professor position at the University of California at Davis in the Department of Biomedical Engineering, where I've been since 2005. And now I'm a professor of biomedical engineering and orthopedic surgery, and moving over to contribute more fully to the Department of Orthopedic Surgery as the Ellison Endowed Chair of Musculoskeletal Research. So my research program is predominantly focused on the design of biomaterials to instruct cell fate. And we pursue this goal in order to promote cartilage, bone, and muscle regeneration. We use a host of preclinical models, in vitro models and in vivo models, and we collaborate really closely with veterinarians and clinicians here at UC Davis to demonstrate the efficacy of these techniques. We're especially interested in strategies that promote cell survival. And so we've been working for a number of years on aggregating cells into spheroids. And we've shown that spheroids enhance the secretion of growth factors that promote host and endogenous repair mechanisms. We've also shown that some of our biomaterials can effectively instruct cell fate in situ, so these transplanted cells can directly contribute to tissue formation. And so we have a number of active federal grants from the NIH and the NSF that enable a host of collaborations to explore these questions. We're collaborating with Eben Alsberg at the University of Illinois Chicago, with Chelsea Bainey at the Stedman Philippon Research Institute, with Scott Simon and Alyssa Panich here at UC Davis, also with a number of investigators through a recently funded NSF project in cultured meat, which allows us to apply our tissue engineering principles toward clean meat and cultivated meat. And so through that, we get to work with the likes of Keith Barr and Lucas Smith and many others. Right, collaborations are really key to the type of work that we do, because as engineers, we need to know if the projects that we're pursuing are relevant. You know, obviously the mechanistic underpinnings and the fundamental discoveries behind our research could have an impact long-term, but my laboratory is really interested in sort of much more acute impact. And in order to make that happen, collaborations are absolutely critical. And so one of the things I love about UC Davis is the collaborative spirit. Been very fortunate over my career to identify a number of mechanistic and clinical collaborators to help propel my research. And you know, those collaborators come from all over. They come from, as I mentioned, other clinical colleagues in orthopedic surgery, Mark Lee, Laura Randall, Eric Kleinberg, and others have been such great long-term collaborators for our projects to help us maintain clinical relevance and help us identify problems that are really of critical need for us to pursue. So in identifying collaborators, that's probably, you know, identifying good collaborators is a challenging and very important piece of research, because you want collaborators that bring something unique to the problem. You want also collaborators that are good partners, that are responsive, that share your vision in pursuing these interesting questions. And also, at least in my opinion, are not easily swayed to give up when problems arise. So I've been really fortunate in my collaborations to engage individuals who are willing to explore questions deeply, who are willing to address challenges as they arise, whether it be a pandemic that slows research or reproducibility when using biomaterials. And so identifying those individuals are absolutely key. At least in my own experience, collaborations which are not as effective are those where individuals, when problems arise, they really are not interested in trying to get to the bottom of them and solve those. And that's fair. You know, collaborations they require work, and they require a lot of time and investment. And so identifying those people who share those principles with you of what's important for those problems is critical. You know, in my research program, since we have engineers and veterinarians and clinicians that are actively contributing to the project, it's actually pretty easy to maintain several irons in the fire. You know, we have engineers who really want to understand techniques to devise and control and characterize biomaterials at a very small level, reproducibly. And so we need to use a host of techniques to do that. Clinicians, veterinarians, they're much more focused on treating the patient. And so we also have students who land everywhere in between as well. And so, you know, my job as the PI is to provide overall guidance. And one of the big questions we're trying to address is how can we effectively push mesenchymal stromal cells into human patients for treating musculoskeletal trauma? We're thinking about applications for long bone repair, for non-unions, for open fractures. We're also thinking about, you know, how can we contribute to efforts to generate a cell-based therapeutic and treatment for osteoarthritis and other cartilage damage. That's not just palliative, but actually can regenerate and restore function fully. And our hope is that our biomaterials can contribute broadly across the spectrum, that they're not focused and relevant only for one disease state or only for one condition, but that what we learn from our fundamental research with biomaterials can be broadly applied to a number of indications. And in order to effectively identify what those indications are, we depend upon good communication and working closely with clinicians who can help us identify what those needs are and why our materials might be beneficial. And if they're not beneficial, how we might tune them so that they can be applicable toward their clinical need. So, you know, one of the things that is so critical for us to contribute to the scientific community as researchers is reviewing the work of others. You know, over my career, even starting as a postdoc and graduate student, I've had the opportunity to review papers, to review grants. And more recently, as of January 1st, I took over as the editor-in-chief of the Journal of Biomedical Materials Research, Part A. I see this as an opportunity for me to remain on top of the newest advances, especially as you think about reviewing grants for federal agencies. This is really a wonderful way for us as a community to provide input and to shape research and to shape the questions that are being asked, but also selfishly to remain on top of new techniques and strategies to address these problems. In my role as the editor-in-chief, I see this mostly as service to the Society for Biomaterials and the biomaterials community at large, to provide a forum and a vehicle for individuals to communicate their scientific advances to the field. This also provides me an opportunity to add my position on rigor and reproducibility to the field, and also to incorporate aspects of diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's an opportunity for those of us who have leadership positions to include and invite those who might not previously have had a voice in the review process. It's also an opportunity for us to make sure that the science that is being communicated broadly is of the highest standard in reproducibility. And so I take these duties very, I treat them with the utmost of responsibility, and I take them very seriously to use these again as a platform for people to communicate their science. I'm fortunate here in Northern California, there's no limit of activities to partake of outdoors. You know, we're close to fantastic hiking and skiing and and beaches and national parks. Personally, I enjoy on the weekend, I enjoy road biking with a group of colleagues, and we go most every weekend to do a long distance ride. And Northern California is really fantastic for that. There's stretches of flat road and stretches of beautiful hills and beautiful vistas to reward you at the end of the ride. Well, ORS is really the premier forum to gather with your colleagues interested in research in the musculoskeletal system. This really does provide, unlike any other scientific society, an opportunity to gather with our colleagues to understand what new areas of research are relevant and should be pursued. And it also is a tremendous opportunity to gather with our colleagues and identify new collaborations and broaden your own area of research toward new and exciting areas. I would give two pieces of advice to those entering the field of research. First of all, identify an area that makes you really excited and curious. Being successful in research is so much self-driven and comes from within. And so in order to really have success in research, I think you have to be hungry to want to know the answer about something, about how it works, and really be driven by trying to figure out that answer. The other piece of information I think that's so important that I personally have benefited enormously from is identifying a collection of mentors who are genuinely interested in your success. These individuals don't have to be the most senior faculty person. They don't even have to be in your own research area, but they need to be people who genuinely want to see you be successful, who are willing to share their input and their best practices to help guide you when things get challenging. And so, I've really been fortunate to have and maintain a large group of mentors that help me on a regular basis throughout my scientific career.